Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shit You Wish Your Building Did. This is the podcast where technology experts tell you how to make your building smarter. Today, we're speaking to David from Bitpool, who have put ChatGPT to good use, creating their own chatbot for building data. So stick around for this interesting conversation where we discuss a real-world application of this hugely influential new technology. If you're serious about making your commercial buildings smarter, then you're in the right place. Every episode, we talk to an expert in their field and discuss practical business advice on how to implement technology in buildings. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified when we publish new content. So let's go. David, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here. Maybe you can start by just telling us a little bit about Bitpool and what you've been doing with ChatGPT.
Yeah, cool, man. So Bitpool's a building data cloud platform. We specialize in getting data out of buildings at an extremely low cost and putting that into people's hands. And our ChatGPT journey really came about with all of the hype in buildings, with everyone, writing poetry with it and writing job descriptions and what have you. And we thought we'd put it to some good use and feed it some building data and see what came back from it. We often experiment with new technology, so I won't say that we're experts in the field. We sort of just came across ChatGPT and thought, well, how could it help our product?
Yeah. Exactly right. So maybe just that's obviously what we want to talk today about. And as you said, you're hearing about some of these kind of obviously it's interesting that people are playing around with it, but it's great to hear some kind of real world experiences. And I came across your LinkedIn post, which I thought was super interesting. And so you've basically been feeding it data from your API, the Bitpool API. And then it's been, you've basically created a chatbot, right, for your application. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, Bitpool goes a little bit further than that in the sense that with our product, we always wanted it to be simple and for anyone to use. One of the premises of our product is it's not just for engineering specialists or energy professionals, things like that. It's like anyone can get into the platform and use it and create some value out of their data. Mm-hmm. So when we saw ChatGPT, we saw the opportunity to bring that into that world, I suppose, to help people understand what they're seeing from our platform. It wasn't as much about us pushing large chunks of building data to it. It was more about being that assistant for the user to say, okay, well, this is what I can see, and this is what I can tell you about what you're seeing. We're super passionate at the moment about this problem where there is a diminishing skill set in the industry, and we've got to try and be able to bring people in who aren't from our industry and help them understand what they're seeing so they can actually participate in the conversation. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, as an industry, we're sort of isolating people by virtue of how complex buildings can be and the technology we use.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's like augmenting the user experience and also then the ability of the user to be able to kind of get a deeper understanding of this data, right? So, I mean, can you give us you've obviously been seeing now how your users have been interacting with it. Have you got some use cases?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you talk to different people, we don't have a large subset using it of our users. There's users using it in different ways, which I've found interesting. Mm-hmm. The most common comment that we get, or the feedback that we get at the moment, is it's taking a lot of the workload out of it. I suppose for everyone to understand, so ChatGPT and that API, there's more iterations to come. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain level of accuracy that you get with this release. But what we're finding from the users is it's taking the workload off them having to mentally understand what they're seeing in front of themselves. From my own personal experience, it's been coming back telling us about missing data sets. So one of the most common things that happens when we're looking at energy consumption, let's say in a building, we may look at it in the last week in hourly intervals, but the actual interval data is 15-minute or 5-minute interval data, and there may be data missing from that subset. So what's been interesting is when I'm looking at a dashboard or an energy consumption graph, and I'm looking at it looks normal to me, there's actually missing data in that that visualization that I don't even know about until I look at the data behind it, so to speak. I don't know if that's making sense, but it's sort of picking up the things that you just wouldn't see as the user, which has been amazing for me to see, to be honest.
Okay. And can you also then use it to like query the data? So you as the user write in, okay, tell me, I want to see data between this specific data between this time scale. Is that how?
Yeah. It's what ends up happening is you enter into a more of a conversation, with the bot, so to speak. So it always starts. So when you first open ChatGPT or Bitpool GPT in this instance, we push it a heap of data before it even starts the conversation. So ChatGPT knows what it's about to comment on and talk about. And then you enter into this conversation with it where you can go deeper and deeper as you feed it more information. So, one of the common things is as soon as you open up our GPT window, it will come back and tell you what it's seen. Mm-hmm. And then you can say, okay, give me some more insights to that data, and it will drill down and drill down. And the more you interact with it, the more it can refine and hone in on what you're actually looking for, which is quite cool. And then you can sort of ask it, you can ask it questions completely out of context to that then as well. You could say, okay, well, tell me why I'm seeing a peak demand issue as an example. And then you say, okay, what could be some of the remedies around a peak demand issue? And can you write me a specification for that? Or can you give me some steps to follow? And it will come back and do that.
Wow, that's
one
really
of the
powerful.
cool comments in the LinkedIn post was someone asked, could you get it to respond as if it was Romeo or Juliet? And we actually asked it to do that about the building data, and it came back and rephrased everything for them. It's quite cool. So that's sort of some of the context of how we're using it. I'll say it's very experimental. Like all of this stuff that you're seeing in the market at the moment, I don't think we know where it's going to take us, but if we don't experiment and try, then we would never know either.
I mean, that's really powerful. That it's sort of not just about visualizing and displaying the data, but also, as you said, like providing remedies to it. Okay, suggesting how that might be fixed, and then also writing a specification for doing that. I mean, that's definitely super interesting.
It's super interesting, and I think there's a whole heap of use cases that we don't even know. I mean, one of the interesting things that I look at, especially with our platform, so we support QR coding. So we put QR codes on equipment, and we often talk about the service technician on a service call, at 10 o'clock at night, and they're in the plant room and they're trying to understand what's happening. When you have an assistant like this, it's as powerful as it is, and simply getting it to start to show you where the problems are, it's extremely powerful. But I think, like anything, we don't understand how to wield that power yet as an industry. It's like I said, it's very experimental.
So what do you think, what's next for you guys? I mean, obviously they've said that they're already going to release a new version of ChatGPT. Google's going to come to market with their version, I guess. Are you going to take advantage of those?
100%. I mean, we're on a journey of our own in a lot of senses. The next step for us is obviously as that API improves, we'll continue to invest in that and bring that that technology to our platform. But we're also experimenting with a lot of visual AI as well. So AIs that can create visualizations. We think it may get to a point where the traditional building visualization could be completely disrupted, where you're simply asking it to show you something rather than building anything at all. And that's a very future state. But if you sort of take any improvement whatsoever in this technology for it to be able to create a dashboard or create a report, I think it'll get down to the point where the facility manager, the service technician is simply just asking the technology to show it what they need to see. And it will create that on the fly. So we're very bullish on all of the technology, but we're more bullish on AI not completely replacing people. Like there's really two trains of thought at the moment, from what you can see in the market, which is, some people take this approach that yes, we're going to automate people out of existence, or there's going to be this heavy level of automation. And then there's another side to it where, there's a group of people who believe that it will augment, human capability. And if you look at, things like our mobile devices and our computers and everything that we use today, that's sort of already happened. And we sit on that side of the fence that we think this technology can augment people's ability, especially when you start to see the skill shortages that we have in our industry, and how people are trying to catch up and understand what's happening in buildings as it is today. So yeah, we're very bullish on that side of the fence, which is this technology can certainly help people in buildings be more proficient, understand large volumes of data a lot faster, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really really interesting to see, and how people could potentially use it. I mean, and again, that ability, and I think what you're doing, that you're adding capabilities for the user. It's not really at this stage about replacing people, is it? It's about giving them better information to do a better job, and actually potentially use less people to do the same, or less brain power to do the same work.
Correct, and or give more bandwidth.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, okay, we use this technology to do less work, or provide more bandwidth. If this could help someone do a factor of 5 times more work than they would usually do, that's a great outcome as well.
Yeah.
I really believe that we're only going to see this technology advance more and more. I mean, the great thing is we have a lot of conversations about this with people, and if you think about it, did you even know about ChatGPT maybe 12 months ago? No one had heard about it, or some had been following. I mean, we'd been following it for a while, but it wasn't prevalent like it is now. The lesson I think people need to learn from ChatGPT is that there's going to be disruptive technologies that come in and really change the game. And the building industry has traditionally been very slow to adopt anything new. So I think the one thing that's certain is that the industry is going to be disrupted, and it's going to be very disruptive over the next 5 years.
All right, and that's an opportunity, right? Not just like a barrier, right? Like, and obviously knowing that, like, if we know that there's going to be more innovative technology come to market, you can start thinking about strategies now about how you deal with that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I think I'm excited to see what things look like in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
If I take just a short 2-year outlook, but I think there's a lot of challenges in the industry as well at the moment. If you look at, I think we were talking on the phone about, energy and energy pricing, decarbonisation. There's a lot of work to do in buildings, and I think technologies like this can certainly help and speed that process up. But I always think you'll need that human in the loop. You know.
Do you think that this focus then on that people have on like AI being about replacing jobs is kind of a misconception? Is what people are kind of missing the point a little bit?
Yeah, look, do I think AI is going to replace some jobs? I think it will, for sure. But there's a big misconception, and at least this is my opinion. People love human interaction. So when there's a problem, and with our customers on a daily basis, I'll talk through problems with customers, and it's not so much you're solving the problem, but it's the journey that they go on with you to solve the problem. So you're sitting there, they learn something, I learn something, and it's great. And there's two parties who are empathetic maybe to each other's cause. There's an emotional connection with it. When you're talking to a chatbot, there is no emotion, behind it. If you're successful, a human being shows that emotion. There's excitement, there's some high fives or whatever you're doing. But when you're talking to a chatbot, it's pretty raw. I personally don't see that, but I'm also cautious with my words because I can be proven wrong very easily. But I really do believe it's in human nature to want to solve problems together, and thinking that that's going to be replaced easily, it could be a misconception.
I'll just go back to something you said before about the data visualization. I mean, that's like really, really interesting, because I think, again, it's sort of, we get fixated on dashboards, right? Like, that's the way that data is presented at the moment. That's how it's going to be. But like, again, like, this could be create like a totally different and much more intuitive system of just creating it on the fly, giving you exactly what you want at that time.
Correct. Yeah, it's we've been experimenting with Midjourney. If you don't know what Midjourney is, but even just for creating imagery for our graphics in these systems we're using Midjourney, and just experimenting with that. So we'll ask it to create a power meter, an image of a power meter, or an air handling unit or something, and it will create that imagery pretty accurately. But like I said, if you take any form of improvement on that technology, it's not within the realm that it couldn't create that visualization for you. Now, if it can create the visualization for you, and this is where it gets really interesting, is it's going to create the best version of that visualization for you to understand. The problem that we have in buildings at the moment is we have engineers that create these visualizations and assume that the user will be able to understand and consume the information. But that's often not the case. That's very often not the case, especially when you have a non-technical user who's trying to consume and gain insight. So if you picture a world where you could ask something to create that for you, and if you said back, well, I still don't understand, and it completely created in a different way, and you kept going backwards and forwards with that conversation, inevitably you would get a better outcome. You would get you as the user being able to understand that system a lot better, in my view. Especially when you talk about multi-building. If we talk about this at any form of scale, if we said, okay, there's 50 buildings with 10,000 points in a building or something like that, that's a lot of data to consume and engineer and design. But yeah, there's also the financial aspect of that. So if you think of what it would cost to build those visualizations, and for someone to manually do that, if we don't have to do that anymore, we can reinvest that money in other areas of the building, into green technology or different technologies to improve the building. So,
like, going back to what you said, I think with the different types of user, right? Like, everyone learns differently. Everyone, and obviously within the organization, everyone has different functions within that, or they have a different perspective, right? So to be able to give them a visualization based on their level of understanding and where they're coming from, I think that's incredibly powerful. So it'd be really interesting to see what you guys do with that.
If you think about it too, we don't do that right now. We just create these static visualizations and we say that's how it should be. Now we've introduced UX and UI design and things like that to try and make this more simple. But if you look at the purpose, of why someone would invest in technology in their building, it is actually to answer questions. It's to gain knowledge. But the systems themselves are designed to only provide that knowledge to particular skill sets of people. Ideally, we don't want that. Ideally, we want anyone to be able to consume information in the way that they can best understand it. And if AI helps push that direction, I think that's a great thing. And that's why, I still go back to that companion piece. I picture, like a portfolio manager about to walk into a meeting, pulling out their mobile and just asking, hey, can you quickly show me our carbon emissions through the portfolio, or something to that effect. And this assistant just simply builds that for them, and shows them that. And I think, some people will say, oh, that's really pie in the sky. That's really out there stuff. But I just don't think it's that far away, to be fair.
100%.
And that's what will disrupt the industry.
Yeah. David, that's awesome talking to you. Thanks for sharing your experiences. If anyone wants to find out more about what you guys are doing, what's the best place to do that?
Just hit the Bitpool website. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're always happy to chat. But yeah, hit the Bitpool website and reach out. We're happy to show you guys what we're doing.
Great. Thanks a lot.